In this lesson, we will begin setting up our model for texturing. So now that we've got the sculpt complete, let's create a texture map for this. So color texture. So with the sculpt selected, I'm going to go ahead and just bump this down one level to level 5. And then I want to start to set this up for painting. So I've gone ahead and left the other object turned off as far as the visibility goes. Let's go ahead and jump over to a 3D paint layout. So you can use your BodyPaint 3D paint. I'm going to use the DT 3D paint, which again is just a smaller size. So with our object selected, I'm going to use the paint wizard. So the paint setup wizard right up here. And it's going to allow us to come in and select which object we want to create texture maps for. In this case, we just want to create one for this creature sculpt at the bottom. So we'll go ahead and hit next. Now we don't want to recalculate our UVs. We've already got UVs on this, so we're going to go ahead and turn that button off and hit next. And now we can decide which channels we actually want to create. So we want to create a color texture. We can also create, for instance, a specular map and a bump map, and any of these other maps you can also create as well. I'm going to go ahead and change our texture map size to 2K. And then once we're done setting all of those values, we can go ahead and just finish up. It's going to go ahead and create our material, all of our maps. Okay, and you can see over here, here is our layers. If you go into materials, you can see the color, bump, and specular, and you can see it for this particular material. So if we jump over from view into texture, we'll also be able to see the textures here. So our material color, bump, and so forth. And we want to go ahead and show our UV mesh. We can do that so we can see how that's looking. All right, so we've got that set up. Let's go ahead and add one of the maps as a sort of guide and to kind of give us some definition here. We'll use the ambient occlusion map. So to do that, we'll go ahead and open it as a texture. So under the texture tab, go to File, Open Texture. We'll go into our project files and we'll choose the ambient occlusion and go ahead and open that up. Now right now it's just opened as another texture in our list. It isn't included in the textures that we're using. So what we need to do is copy and paste it. So I'm going to go ahead and select it just by going to select the whole thing, and I'll just hit Control-C to copy. I'll jump over to our color material and let's paste it in. Now by looking under layers now, you can see that we now have this layer, and we'll call this ambient occlusion or occlusion, something like that. So right now it's the top layer, so think of this sort of like Photoshop. You can see the top layer but nothing underneath. So I'm going to change the blend mode, and I'm going to change that to multiply. So now we're able to see the lighter areas underneath, but we still have all the shadowing in the darker areas that we can actually use. Okay, so at this point we can go ahead and start to create a basic color. So we're in our color material. We can choose a color, and I'm just going to choose maybe like a real desaturated green as kind of our base. And we can go up here to the paint bucket, and you can do it either in here. We just want to make sure we have the right texture selected, or in our 3D view we can go ahead and fill that with color. So you can see that we're now seeing the green color, but we're also seeing the detail from the occlusion on top of that green color. Okay, and so you can see I've filled the background with this green, and then we've got the ambient occlusion layer on top as a guide, and that layer is set to multiply. Okay, so once we have our model set up for painting with our textures, the next thing that we can do is begin actually creating some texture. So let's create a base for the skin. So we'll kind of define different areas of our skin and start to paint those through, and we'll go ahead and do that in the next lesson.